Now, quick one about, importing cars, which are, because there is a government policy which allows you to do that.
Yes.
Pre-1950.
Yes.
I believe.
The first thing that's happening is the interest is growing quite rapidly amongst the younger generation. And they can't lay their hands on good cars. The second thing is whatever cars were available in India were outpriced and all molested cars. None of them were unmolested. So getting a car back to what the original should have been like, very few people know how to do that.
Right.
And
also very expensive.
And they're overpriced.
Correct.
So fortunately, the moment the policy came, which was, I think, Mr. Badnor's, shall I say, efforts with the government, he managed to convince the government to allow a policy to import. And cars started coming in, but in limited numbers. I don't think, even 1,000 cars might have come in over the last 5-7 years that the policy has been around.
Right.
But the advantage is you can get any car, left-hand drive, right-hand drive, whatever it be. Pre-50.
And what's the import duty?
It's about 215, 220% thereabouts.
And is that on the value of the car being imported? How is that determined?
Well, they determine the value. You have to declare the value
of the
car,
right.
Whatever price you bought it for.
But there could be two different prices for the same model, or?
If you have a proof of payment,
right.
You present that to the customs,
right.
The appraisers, and they also bring in a chartered engineer.
Okay.
To actually make sure that the valuation sounds right. Okay. And then once they feel that whatever is the value, you pay the duty and take it.
And the process is fairly straightforward now, streamlined? Or?
Streamlined. The first few cars had a problem. The customs guys were not familiar.
Right.
They all knew the cars were banned. So the moment a car came up, all the eyes and antenna went up.
Right.
But then we had to show them the policy, take them through it. Now it's become fairly routine all over the country. You can get this.
Correct.
The main advantage of the policy is that, for example, if I take a Buick sedan, people ask for 30, 40, 50 lakhs in the country, but you can pick up a Buick sedan, complete running car, which needs restoration, for something like $3,000. Freely available. You can see them on the internet or on eBay or any of these sites which sell them. Right. You pay 250% duty on it. At $10,000, the car's landed home in India. $10,000 is 8 lakhs of rupees. You spend another 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs, 20 lakhs. For 30 lakhs, you have a pristine Buick.
Correct.
Or a Cadillac, or any car of your choice.
Because it's now viable to get them restored in India and in an efficient pricing.
You can do different levels of restoration.
Right.
You can have a fairly decent restoration with a car running for a reasonable price. If you want to have a Concours level restoration, then of course you have to pay that kind of money.
Has this, policy had any impact on the market? Would the price have come down, or?
For sure, people who were expecting unreasonable prices had to realize that they were out of sync with reality. So they had to bring down the prices. Cars did start selling at reasonable prices.
Right.
Unless, of course, the car had a special history or some provenance of ownership, or a specially bodied car, which was not the usual run-of-the-mill body or coach built or whatever. Those people held prices, or they even actually going up now.
India car, which is a car which was originally imported in the good old days, versus a car which was imported through the new policy, a pre-war car, let's say, an India car with history would still have a premium over something that one would import?
Absolutely. An Indian car with history, provenance, definitely would hold more value to any collector.
Right.
Unless he's just buying a car to have fun, which is fair.
Yeah.
I want to enjoy my car. But if I want to have a collection that's a valuable collection, cars with provenance matter. And people are paying crazy prices for good cars with provenance today.
Right.
Because, there are very few available.
And they've understood that.
They've
That's
understood
why I
that.
keep mentioning that, because I'm seeing that visibly in the market where, provenance, history, ownership, all of those things are playing a part, and they're almost being sort of labeled as them. You're seeing all these crests and all of these things sort of really becoming visible to show off that history, so to speak.
I couldn't agree with you more. You're absolutely right. You know this very well. Provenance today is the only way to go for an Indian car. I mean, even cars owned by any celebrity overseas has greater value overseas than it has for for just another layman's car.
Correct.
For example, if a car was owned by a Beatle or by one of the famous music guys or somebody, the prices go up to the sky.
Yeah, absolutely. Harking back to, some of the cars of different eras. So there is, let's say, pre-war, then there is classic, then there's modern classic. Now there are different sort of classifications which are there. If I focus my discussion on the pre-war, what do you see the market of pre-war? And, they are expensive cars, they are holding value. What's it going to look like over the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, it depends on who the collector is. If a collector is a serious collector who wants to have a variety of cars in his collection, he has to start with pre-war cars, which are not necessarily very drivable.
Right.
You can't use them every day. You can use them for special events.
Yeah.
They are going to have value only with those limited buyers.
Right.
The average vintage enthusiast or the younger vintage enthusiast are going to go for cars of the 50s or 60s which are more drivable or even later. And then, of course, you have the modern youngsters
Right.
who want the modern classics, cars of the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000.
Yeah, because I'm seeing that. I mean, I'm more sort of inclined to the modern classic
I know.
and a little bit into the classic.
And you have some very nice cars as well.
So I'm seeing that because I'm seeing again the market and the pricing is sort of unrealistic. It's not linked to any global price or anything,
The Indian market has never been linked to global pricing.
Right. It's got a life of its own.
It's got a life of its own. It's got an ecosystem of its own.
Correct. Yeah, I'm seeing that. But you're right. I think when you look at someone with a serious collection, I think, to have that depth of the vintage in it is definitely something that, marks a seal of credibility, so to speak, to some extent, and desirability as well.
Absolutely.
There's
no
history
question about it. As a matter of fact, I had a very large collection of pre-war cars.
Right.
I've just gotten rid of most of them. I've kept very, very few.
Yeah.
Cars that really mattered to me or closer to my heart, either due to some history or some sentimental value.
Right.
The rest of them I've just parted with.
Why is that?
After me, who's going to maintain it?
So that's a important question, because I mean there are people who've got large collections. I mean, yourself for one, you've reached this stage which is it's spectacular. It's taken you time. You've built.
It has more than 100 running cars now.
Correct. So it's amazing achievement. What next? Where do you go from this?
Well, I think the way to go ahead is depending on your age and what you want to do. If you want to leave it in a trust, you're going to have, showpieces which are not going to run. Like, sadly, some of the finest cars are in Mr. Boghilal's collection. And the cars standing in Ahmedabad, I don't even think 5% of his collection are in running condition. I don't want my cars to suffer that fate.
Right.
So I would rather have a lesser number of cars, rationalize my collection to keep a few sentimental or special pre-war cars, and then start building a collection which is a little more modern and more reusable, so that my generation after me can use them.
Correct.
And it will be possible for, whatever talent is available in the country to find people to maintain them. That's the way it's going to go.
And how easy or difficult is it to part with cars?
Look, it's like parting with the child. But then sometimes your daughters do get married, you have to part with them. You just have to psych yourself and say, it's better it goes to a home where somebody will run it.
So you are also mindful that if you do decide, scaling down, and within that you're passing on some of your cars to the market, would you be wary of, or you wouldn't mind?
Well, look, I wouldn't obviously sell it to a guy who's using it for film shoots where he's going to destroy it. I'm certainly not going to sell it to them. So I'm going to, obviously, if anybody is a genuine collector or who wants to start a collection,
right,
and we feel that he has his head and the heart in the right place,
right,
please take it.
Yeah.
I don't look to make money out of these cars.
Yeah. No, that's important. I mean that shows that, your love for them. You want to put them into the right
my collection is so varied. The cheapest car at 20,000 rupees onwards to cars that are today worth a couple of crores or more in the market. I have the whole range.
Right.
And it's not necessarily that the most expensive is my favorite.
Okay.
My Fiat, which costs 30,000 rupees, is my favorite.
That brings me to the other point, because again, when I see your collection, which is over 100, maybe 150 cars, it's such a sort of varied collection. It's different ages, different types of cars as well. I mean, I've seen an amazing collection of 4x4s, for example. I've seen, classic cars. I've seen E-types, I've seen Mustangs, and then we've seen some of the most amazing pre-war cars. So it's like how have you been selecting?
I haven't selected. If a car came my way, if I had the money and if I liked the car, I'm a lover of the automobile, so I would buy any car that, came anywhere into any of these things. But it was more impulse buying.
Yeah.
It wasn't bought with a design that, I need only cars, I need only, roadsters, I need only coupes. No, I bought anything. As long as the price was right. And one thing I must tell you, Maharaj Kumarji, almost every single car in my collection has been restored by me.
Right.
I've never bought a pre-restored car. The closest cars that I got that were complete was the Saddam Hussein car. It wasn't running, but it was complete.
Yeah. So I see that, I recognize that as well, that while you are passionate about cars, I think you're equally passionate about restoring them.
For two reasons. One is, when I started restoring cars, I found there was nobody in the market.
Right.
And the standard that we look at, I only know one guy who does it. My friend Manasban. Right. The rest of them are good, but not that good. So, before all of us grew in the quality of restoration game, I had no option but to restore my own cars. Correct. And then I found that while I was restoring cars, the chrome was always a problem. So I started my own chrome plant with my own research. Today I'm doing the finest chrome work in the country. And if your chrome doesn't stand out in a vintage car, you're killing the car. It's like wearing shoes of polish. Correct. You can't do it. So we've done everything over the years. Correct. And the enjoyment, it started as a necessity. But over time I realized that, restoring my own cars was my passion. And I could rely on what I've done. Right. I don't know what the other guy has done to the car, whether it's going to be, shall I say, reliable to do on a long distance drive.
You set those standards and you're holding yourself accountable for
Absolutely.
those as well. Yeah. And, again, as I've been going to shows, I've been meeting new people through this, there's one commonality that the quality of work is definitely improving. What I've been also told many times is obviously the cosmetic part is already global standard. Mechanical is slightly behind, but that's also catching up. So, with all of that, one also sees, because again, one wants to maintain, this is also sort of art, right? Putting these cars together and bringing them to this sort of condition. Could there be an opportunity for India and Indian restorers to sort of open up and start getting cars from abroad?
It is definitely possible. It could be a good business. I think some of the bigger guys might be wanting to do that soon. They'll have to go to the government to ease the policy a little bit. Right. Because bringing in a car from overseas to restore and send back, the existing rules are not very conducive, but I'm sure the government will be reasonable enough to frame a set of rules for such commercial activity.
Yeah, because it's
Because our costs are a fraction of the overseas costs.
correct. And the quality is up there. We were discussing earlier, maybe one of the issues could be some of the timelines, because here it does take a long time for the restoration.
Yeah, but I think, some of the bigger garages are getting there now. They're running cars around quite fast. And I mean, if I really set my mind to it, I have a small garage, but if I really set my mind to it, I can turn a car around in 6 months.
Okay.
I can.
Right.
I've done it.
Yeah.
Earlier Cartier shows we've done 7, 8 cars in 6 months. So it's not that it's not possible, but it then has to be looked at as an industrial project with, proper KRAs and systems and all kinds of things, different sections of the department. Overseas is very simple. The engine goes somewhere to get done. The carburetors go somewhere to get done. The suspension goes somewhere to get done. What does the restorer do? He puts them all together, does the bodywork, paint work. Coach work goes out to get done.
Correct.
Or some subcontractor comes and does it here.
Right.
We do everything ourselves. But we can do it.
Right.
Certainly we can. So then we'll get there.
Yeah.
So some of the bigger guys are going to get there pretty soon.
Yeah, that would be great to, see that happening. Yeah. Imported cars coming in for this sort of work.
So it can also be one of the Make in India kind of
Absolutely.
efforts.
Sir, your thoughts on, car shows, events that take place, met you at so many of them, you support so many. What is your view on these?
To put it very simply, some of these car shows have actually pushed us to make our cars restored and ready in time, which would have never happened otherwise. The second thing that happened was it was an open competition of so many people restoring cars and trying to win. The third thing that happened was the level of restoration went up in the country because of all of these things.
Right.
And the fourth thing is we learnt a lot. I mean, where do you get to see all these cars under one roof? Or under one sky? It was phenomenal. The learning experience was phenomenal.
Right.
My entire learning on restoration came from the first Cartier.
Do you think there are enough events?
Well, what used to happen was those major Cartier events and the 21 gun salute. These are the two biggest events in the country.
Right.
Now, Cartier has backed out, but I think fortunately the Oberoi Concourse has started, which is the first one happening within a couple of weeks. If they continue, and I hope they continue, I think, it's going to be so many more newer cars coming for people to see, enjoy, learn, and of course the sense of competition.
Right.
Which brings out the best.
Correct. So I think that one would look forward to more of this happening, and it helps in a positive way. In the next event, which as you mentioned is the Oberoi event in Udaipur,
Yes.
there is a lot of buzz that I'm seeing. I think the best cars from the country will be there representing.
Yeah.
I also believe that there are some cars international cars that are coming in. And even the judges, I believe, there are even foreign judges.
Well, Cartier has always had foreign judges. We never had anybody from India at the Cartier.
Right.
There's 5 or 6 or 7 of them that happened. And I think the same tradition continues. There's the same curator, His Highness Barwani. I don't think he can be matched. He's just an institution himself. He's putting this show together. And every show he has managed to bring out cars that people didn't know existed. So you're going to have some phenomenal cars coming in from overseas. Some cars which are owned by Indians overseas will come for the show, which otherwise you will not get to see in India.
Correct.
And the other interesting thing is that somebody like me, I'm going to be showcasing a hand-built car.
Right.
So these are, so again, it's for people to see, critically comment on it, so I can, do this as a next part of my hobby.
Wow, we're really looking forward to seeing that. I mean, that's your next.
Yeah,
that's the next direction.
Next direction.
That's excellent. And how many cars are you taking for this?
4 of them have been invited. One is the special car that I had built. One is a 64 Cadillac convertible. One is a Carmen Ghia convertible. And one is a very special car, which is a 1955 Imperial by Ghia. It's a huge car. They've not been able to find a truck to take it so far. It's 21 feet plus long.
Right.
And,
If you need someone to drive her there, we're happy to volunteer.
we can do it together.
That would be fun. So thank you very much, sir,
Thank
for
you.
your time and
Kumarji.
giving us this level of access. I really, really appreciate it.
You always have the access, you know that.
And all the best for the Oberoi event, and I will see you there.
Thank you so much, Matt.
So what a treat, what a privilege and what an honor to spend time with Mr. Goenka and be amongst this gorgeous collection of his. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.